Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to call our meeting to order. And if you do a roll call.
Yes. Charles Smith.
Here.
Richard Hilton.
Here.
Katina Vulture. Here. Anna Ogeen. Tammy Fruling-Bogus. Here. Stephen Summers.
Here.
Geraldo Rosales.
Here.
Jim Goss.
Here.
Diane Marlin. Carol McMitten. Dennis Roberts. Deb Frank Klein. Here. Patrick Brown.
Here.
Oh, and Will Kyles. We have quorum.
All right, sounds good. Everyone has the agenda, so I need a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next is audience participation, and Mr. Danos, I think that's you.
Okay, hi, thank you. I didn't make formally prepared remarks, but I knew what the questions were. I'm glad to report that the site for the cumulative year-end financial reporting has been uploaded to GATA as of last night. So the main focus of your reporting needs for the sake of compliance has been accomplished. The single audit I expect to be completed by the end of the year. We have not received any letter from the accountability officer from DCEO, and I think that's due to the change in leadership in that office.
Okay.
I'm inferring what questions you might have.
Okay.
Does public participation allow for any back and forth?
Yes, there is.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
So the consolidated financial report, when will that be uploaded to the federal clearinghouse then?
I say by the end of the year. You're referring to the CAFR, right?
Right, we're
Yeah,
referring to the
yeah.
CAFR, right, because that's what's required.
I know. The single audit's an integral part of it. Right.
So you think by the end of the year?
Absolutely.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
How
Tammy?
does that work for us? Is by having them do that by the end of the year, is that going to be acceptable for
Well,
our
I don't
situation?
know, because I responded to HHS, Health and Human Services, the Office of Head Start in Washington, as well as the state, saying it would be uploaded on December 13th, because that's what information I got. So, I don't know what they'll say now, because we've submitted $7.5 million worth of grants, and there's a checklist that they follow, of course, and so we're non-compliant at this point.
You say we're not compliant?
We're not compliant.
We're not compliant.
It was due September 30th.
Okay. All right. Yes, Tammy?
My question to you is, I mean, I guess I'm not happy with just the fact, I mean, you just stated due to the leadership or whatever, but I guess I'm looking for a better explanation. I mean, I find it very unacceptable. I mean, that's a huge chunk of money that there's a lot of great, programs that are relying upon that. And I think this was, I mean, that's the job that should be done in that department, in that office. And that's plenty of time from us submitting our paperwork in February to September to get something figured out, and not after the fact. Now we're late, now we're potentially, at risk of losing millions of dollars.
I'd say that there is, I would say, I understand your question, Tammy, and I'm happy to respond to it with great pleasure. You've never had a CAFR submitted on time in the last 5 years. I'm aware of that, and I'm trying to increase the alacrity with which my office works. There was a particular demand, an inter-office demand, I think you're aware, from public censure that has put enormous demands on my office, and it has diverted us in ways that has to be done. Just yesterday, I saw my chief deputy overlooking bank reconciliations from December 2018, which is an integral part of the CAFR. So that is something where we're not getting something from an allied office. I'm not going to name it, okay? I will say, please be assured that because I have direct communications with the successor to Robert Williams, that your $7.4 million funding is not at risk. But yeah, September 30th is itself a relatively lax deadline for submission of the CAFR. I'd prefer to have it done by June 30th, but I'm not going to be able to do that in my first year. I'm not going to give you 2 CAFRs within 1 year. I submitted the 2017 CAFR within 4 weeks of being inaugurated last year. So you say unacceptable, that's fine, but I don't take it personally because you're not referring to me.
Oh, well, I'm not necessarily blaming you, I'm in blaming the entire system for, you know, whoever's pointing fingers at who. Obviously, something didn't work. So I think the overall system needs to be looked at so that, I mean, I've been sitting on this commission here for a long time, and this has never come up before, so I just,
Not last year?
pardon me?
Not last year?
It was late last year, but,
Late last year.
yeah. So I guess the information that was uploaded yesterday only satisfies the state's requirements, not the federal requirements.
Well, that's for data, that's not the CAFRA. The legal requirement for the state and the federal government is to have a consolidated year-end financial report, or CAFRA is the acronym. That's the final document, that's what they accept as the final audit. Now, this may be a partial solution to the state, but, you know, I don't know that, because I haven't been involved in those communications that you've had with them. So,
So do you feel that we're in jeopardy somewhere?
No.
Okay.
I just think that I share your goal to have the question not come up at all. And I do have some cautious optimism that the allied departments that report revenues and don't divert any efforts from my office will have been solved by midpoint next year and not cause delays that you've seen this year.
You got the county executive.
All right.
So, you said last 5 years. I mean, what's typical for being late? I mean, I know this year it sounds like it's later than normal, but is it always like a month late or 2 late, or 2 months late typically? In the last-
You're referring to the September 30th deadline?
Yeah, September 30th.
This is my first year, so I can't tell you what the history was.
I think last year it was mid-December, I'd have to look that up.
So we've had similar issues in the past.
The last 3 years, I think,
That's
right?
Okay. So Betty, how do you feel about that?
Pardon me?
Yeah, how does that affect your department, and how do you feel
Well, I
about
think it shows a trend, and, you know, of course, when the federal auditors come in here, monitors, you know, they're gonna look at that, because that is obviously the first thing they look at. They don't necessarily listen to what we have to say, that's the document that speaks to our financial systems here, whether the infrastructure is responsive to managing these federal and state programs. So I think it does introduce a question, a red flag for these funding agencies for us, and of course, that poses a risk.
Yes,
A
it does.
necessary risk, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay.
Do you think it's cost us in competitive grants? Because obviously,
Well, it could. Brandy just submitted, we submitted $7.5 million worth of early Head Start, and early Head Start expansion. And so that was the genesis of the email that I got. It was from the Chicago Regional Office in Washington saying, where is the audit? And I told them it would be uploaded December 13th, which is today.
Okay.
And in, you know, in 2020 and 2021, we're going to get ready for another federal review. And they will be focused in on our fiscal, you know, our fiscal documentation. So that is a, you know, that is a concern. And I am very concerned about where we stand with our grant.
I think to add to that, I think the risk there is that the feds could potentially have us compete
Yes.
for the funding. We're not in a situation where we have to compete for the funding. The grants that she submitted were continuation grants.
Well,
Right.
actually, they were not this year.
Okay.
They were the 5-year grants, and
Right.
since we had such a good monitoring, you know, such good monitoring reviews in the last 5 years, it was non-competitive.
Right.
And not all programs get that. Some programs who do have findings or deficiencies, they have to recompete as a whole. So the grant that I submitted, we were lucky. We didn't have to do that because we had such good reviews. So that is a concern that, you know, for in the next few years, our reviews could reflect deficiency.
Okay.
Because it's a system issue.
All right.
Can you address that as to why it would be a systems issue?
What are you referring to? Like IT systems?
No, she meant
overall
financial
systems.
All
system.
over.
Because they're looking, if it's just an isolated incident, they
Yeah.
could say it's a non-compliance or, you know, it's a finding. But if they look at the whole system and how it's operating, how reports are coming in, they could find it as a deficiency in a system. And that's even more so of an issue.
No, I understand. You're saying more grants are subject to competitive bids by agencies that will fulfill the services. And so for our chances to be enhanced to obtain those grants, we don't want any red check mark, negative mark on financial reporting. So that's just a good accountability measure for me to bring out an emphasis on and the priority on the financial reporting. So thank you.
Anyone else have a question? All right, very good.
Okay.
All right, very good. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Chuck. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any additional audience participation? No, then we'll move on to item 4, the minutes. The RPC draft meeting minutes from November the 22nd, they're on page 1 of your documentation. Do I hear a motion to approve the RPC draft meeting minutes of November the 22nd, 2019?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item 5 is the consolidated financial reports. Betty?
So I don't have that included, the date that we sent this mailing out, I did not have the general ledger data, so I wasn't able to share that, I'll send that to the next meeting.
All right, that sounds good. All right. Well, let's move into item 6, which is list of bills. Right back to you, Betty.
Sure, so the list of bills is not unusual, it does reflect a significant number of LIHEAP payments. Our LIHEAP census is up this year, so we're serving more clients, which is a good thing. Workforce participation has increased, and of course, we have a new Head Start Center, so operationally, there's more activity. But there's nothing unusual to report.
Okay. All right. So do I hear a motion to accept and place on file the list of bills for November of 2019?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7 on your agenda is an action item, and it is the fiscal year budget additions. And again, to Betty.
Sure, so the budget document you got this summer, we indicated that if there was any new funding or new grants, we would add that to that document, which is on the agenda for approval next. We have 3 new departmental budgets, one in the amount of $50,000 for transportation safety plan implementation, another for collaborative engagement technology for $100,000, and census tracking support for $180,000. These are all through IDOT, Federal Highway, or a subrecipient through the Public Health Department. The detailed line items are on the back of the memorandum, and I'd like to ask for approval to include these in our FY20 budget document.
Okay. Is there any objections to including them? All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the FY20 budget additions as presented? With the additions.
Move approval.
Okay, Steve, is there a second? And we have a second. Is there any further discussion of the topic? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Commissioners, I'd like to draw your attention to item B. Item B will be in two parts. First of all, will be the final budget, and then the compensation adjustments would pay on page 107. And that falls to you, sir.
I'm going to just introduce it. Commissioners, if you remember, I think back in September or October, we presented to you the preliminary budget for FY 2020 with the intent of coming back to you. I believe we were going to do that in November with our compensation plan. As I reported at the last meeting, due to the fact that we were implementing a new performance evaluation system, we were slightly delayed in getting all of our work done, but now we have completed that, and today we're happy to present to you for approval not only the final budget, but inclusive with that, our compensation plan, and I will hand it over to Betty to highlight the key items we have regarding our compensation plan.
Sure. So as in years past, we rely on the Employers Association, which is a region-wide organization, to give us comparable market data. We recommend increasing our salary ranges, which are included on the back side of this memorandum, by 3% in order to provide us with external equity and allow us to continue to recruit and retain talented staff. It's a very tight job market, and we think a 3% increase is consistent not just with AIM, but what we looked at in terms of comparable positions in the community. So that's 3%, and then we looked at that, and consistent with our performance review process and our focus on achievement, we're recommending targeted merit increases. So merit awards can be a permanent merit to base. It can be a merit one time, and typically one-time merits are assigned to those folks who have a more limited or restricted budget, but yet we want to recognize them for significant achievement in the year. So the one-time merit awards range from $500 to $5,000, and that's based on what the division directors recommend, subsequent to them doing a formal performance evaluation. So it is directly tied to performance, and those funds have been included in the FY19, the current budget, and if approved by this board, they would be distributed in the next paycheck, which is next Friday, December 20th. With regard to FY20, the guidance that we provided to the directors was if you were a high performer, 4.2 would be the maximum, a middle performer, 2.8, low performer, 0.7 or 0. This again was based on the Employers Association recommendation. So when we moved the salary ranges 3%, we of course had to move those folks that were below the minimum to the minimum. That represented 0.383% or $24,498. We moved those folks that were continued to be high performers to a comparable range position, and that was 1.28% or $82,069. And then finally, merit to base is 0.34, $21,733. So the overall pay adjustment we're requesting for 2020 overall is 2%. The one-time merit awards that are included in the FY19 budget and already in that budget are $105,250, and 94 staff would receive those one-time awards. So we recommend FY20 final budget approval as well as the compensation adjustments.
Okay. So I'll have two motions coming at you. The first motion is I need a motion to approve the compensation adjustment as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion now of the topic? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. The second portion of that is a motion to approve the fiscal year final budget as presented.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Item C is a resolution to approve a long-range transportation plan 2045 for the Champaign-Urbana Urbanized Area Transportation Study, and it's on page 110 of your report.
Good
Rita?
morning.
Good morning.
At the last RPC board meeting, we presented the long-range transportation plan, all the work that had been done in the last 2.5 years with the help of agency members, staff. And we also closed down the public comment period for the plan. After the RPC meeting, we had last week a QX technical committee, and the QX technical committee approved the document as presented. And then last Wednesday, the QX policy committee approved also the plan as recommended by QX technical. Then the last step in the process, according to our QX intergovernmental agreement, is to get the approval of the plan by the RPC board. And that's what I'm requesting today based on what you saw at the last RPC board meeting. I don't want to bother you with more because we have been talking about LRTP for 2 years now. But if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Okay.
Was there any additional input provided by the public in this last month?
There were some minor comments that we received, but not significant comments.
To create change?
Mhm.
Right.
And those are documented on the website that we presented. We have a section regarding public involvement. The third phase of the public involvement was documenting all the comments received and the responses that we provided regarding those comments. Then you can go there and see the comments and see our responses and the changes that were done to the plan.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I have a motion to approve the long-range transportation plan for 2045 for Champaign-Urbana Urbanized Area Transportation Study.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Let's go to item D, which is revised Champaign County Community Action Board bylaws on page 113 of your report. And that is Lisa.
Good morning. You have a memo in your packet, and also what you have is a clean copy of the revised bylaws and then a marked up version. The memo highlights the primary information. The Community Action Board is an advisory board primarily to the Community Services Division that is an advisory board also to the commissioners. It is a tripartite board and represents client sector, public sector, and the private sector. We are primarily revising the bylaws to incorporate a more democratic process for representatives of low-income families to be selected for that board. Attached in the bylaws revisions, you will see the primary changes being the appointment of the client and private sector. Previously was 12 members that were appointed directly by the county executive. In the revisions, the county executive would continue to appoint the 2 county board members to the Community Action Board, but the other 10 representatives that are client and private sector representatives would be applying directly to the Community Action Board and be selected by the Community Action Board and then approved by the full board. There'd be a committee that reviewed those applications and then would be appointed by the full Community Action Board. We also more clearly defined the application selection and reappointment process for those sector representatives and revised the length of terms for the appointments and reappointments. So we bring this was approved by the Community Action Board and now is before the Commissioners for final approval of the proposed 2020 Community Action Bylaws. And I'm happy to take more specific questions.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the revised Champaign County Community Action Board? Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All right. Any other questions? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item 8, Head Start, Early Head Start. Brandy?
Hi, good morning. In your packet was the October management report for Head Start and Early Head Start. Our program enrollment for October remained at for Head Start and Early Head Start, and 99% for Early Head Start expansion. We had 89 enrollments out of 90 that we're supposed to have for expansion, so we're doing really, really well. Due to child illnesses in October, the attendance went down by 2% to 86.20%, and we served 17,230 nutritious meals to the children. According to the Family Services Report, we enrolled 24 homeless families, and 3 of those families acquired housing. We also served 15 children in foster care, and 347 families engaged in the Family Partnership Agreement goal-setting process, and this was an increase of 34 families as of last meeting. The site managers also reported several activities and events throughout the month of October, such as dental and developmental screenings, home visits by our staff, visits from Mother Goose on the Loose from the Champaign Public Library, book reading from the WILL book mentors, and also hearing and vision screenings from the Lions Club. As always, we're pretty busy this time of year, and looking forward to 2020. That concludes my report today.
All right. Are there any questions?
Love your grass.
Thank you. Try to make it easy.
Yeah, that was good. All right. Can I have a motion to accept and place on file the Head Start and Early Head Start management reports, including financial and service area reports dated December the 5th of 2019?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Okay. We have 2 of everything. All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Item 9 is program division updates. Betty?
Sure, so we're just very busy closing out FY19 and getting ready for FY20, so the staff is really busy.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right. Very good.
How is the new Head Start Center coming along with its remodeling and all the?
So, yeah, so our Champaign West side is open. Our classrooms on the north side are open, and the south side, the customized improvements are ongoing, and the walls are nearly up. So plumbing is in, and so we're getting ready for that. It should be completed, it has to be completed by February 28th for us to meet the federal requirements. So we're looking forward to that. We'll have a total of 14 classrooms operational there.
Great, wonderful.
Good deal.
So we've been really busy with that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Becky? Thank you.
All right. Good morning. The Human Resources reports included in your packet today represent personnel transactions from November 19th through December 6th. During this short reporting period, our management team hired 9 new employees. RPC has currently a count of 301 employees and 103 work experience employees, for a total of 404 employees on the payroll. The management team is working to fill 30 open positions. We currently have 16 candidates in the pre-employment process, which is tremendous. We're getting there. We're getting close to staffing goals. During the first quarter of 2020, our management team will be reviewing policies that have been impacted by several state and federal statutes, including Equal Pay, Illinois Wage Payment Collections Act, Nursing Mother Breaks, Illinois Service Member Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, Sexual Harassment Training, One Day and Rest Act, Minimum Wage, and we will be addressing the new laws on medical marijuana as well as legalizing marijuana in the state of Illinois. I know the county has already passed through policy that we'll be reviewing, and we will for sure be answering the questions that several people have. Is CBD oil really cannabis? So we'll be addressing that. I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, very good. Thank you, Becky. Next is Lisa Benson.
Just a few highlights. We are always in grant season. Right now, we're preparing our United Way, our United Way grants that will hopefully continue the services that we provide at the emergency family shelter, and then also we provide utility assistance to those that are moving from unstable housing situations into stable housing, subsidized housing. We also will be submitting a small grant to hopefully support a new program for moral reclamation therapy that will tie into the work that we do at the Youth Assessment Center. The Youth Assessment Center, we always try to find creative ways to engage the community and make sure that they're aware of our services. Jonathan Westfield, our coordinator at the Youth Assessment Center, came up with the idea of being out at the mall during the holiday season. And so they have been out at the mall to make sure that they're engaging families and letting them know about the Youth Assessment Center, along with a researcher from U of I that's also doing some work with our families and other families in the community that has some incentives. So they were out there last Saturday, and they'll be out there this Saturday promoting the services that we provide at the Youth Assessment Center. It was mentioned LIHEAP is definitely busy. I talked about last meeting that we did a blitz in Rantoul. We are actually scheduling 2 more outreach events, what we refer to as blitz, targeted to certain communities. One in Ludlow, we will be in Ludlow, Illinois, and then also at Candlewood Estates in Mahomet. So those are in the planning process, and we expect that those will happen. We anticipate usually about 50 people, households that will come out. And then lastly, in our weatherization program, we are working with the state to do hopefully a multifamily project that will impact at least 27 households within a multifamily complex. The exciting part when we reached out to the state about this specific project, they referenced that we may be able to do a solar pilot for this also. So this is brand new, but I hope to be reporting more information about this soon.
And that's in Urbana?
It is in Urbana.
Okay. Any questions? I can tell you that my staff appreciated the LIHEAP interaction with you, and we had a real good turnout in Rantoul. The numbers were high that day.
They were. There were 75 households that came out.
Yeah, that's good. Very good. All right. Thank you, Lisa. Next is Rita.
Yes. We have been working really heavily on the census. Last Tuesday, we had another meeting of the Census Complete Count Committee. The bad news regarding that is that the Champaign Urbana Public Health District hasn't received the grant agreement from DHS as the regional intermediary in order for us to hire interns to work with us on reaching out to hard-to-count populations. We are waiting for the Public Health District to receive the executive agreement in order for us to post and hire interns to work with us on reaching out in Champaign County. But we have been doing some events, not at the level that we would like to have the money to buy what we want to distribute at those events. It's not possible at this time until we have received the agreement. Also, after this meeting, we'll be holding the RPC Technical Committee, and just letting you know that we'll be discussing the scope of services for next year, beginning July 1st, and also we'll be discussing the RPC membership fees. Then, based on the discussion today, staff will put together a final draft of the scope of services as well as the membership schedule to be presented to you at the RPC board meeting in February. With good news, we submitted as part of the IDOT grant application for bus and bus facilities. It's the same grant application that was submitted by CUMTD for the Illinois terminal expansion that they received. We submitted a request for 4 new buses to replace and expand the existing C-Card fleet that we have. Some of those buses are old. Unofficially, we were notified that we received the funding for all the 4 buses that we requested, with the caveat that we'll have to pay for those buses in advance, and that's $208,000. And then after paying for those buses, we'll be reimbursed by IDOT for the same amount. Then I'll be communicating with the Champaign County staff, looking at the possibility of paying for those buses in advance to be able to get those buses in place. And lastly, 2 weeks ago, USDOT made a call release, a safety data initiative notice of funding opportunity to develop a data analysis tool for roadway safety. Well, we are looking to apply for that funding. The funding available is once in a lifetime opportunity, is $3 million for up to 12 awards. The minimum amount of the award will be $250,000, and it has to be executed in 1 year, 12 months. We had ideas that we have been thinking about it, and we met with the Champaign County engineer, Jeff Blue, and we are considering applying for this funding opportunity, partnering with the Champaign County Highway Department and also with IDOT. I have a conference call scheduled with IDOT next week on Monday to discuss the application. For this grant application, we would like to implement the Systemic Safety Projection Selection Tool that was developed by Federal Highway in 2013. They have a methodology for assessing roadways and basically with the data input determining high-risk locations, but they don't have a tool automatically that can produce those results. Everything has to be done manually. Then our idea is to develop this tool that will be web-based, that the user can click on the roadway, segment, intersection, and see historic crash statistics, future crash risk assessment based on the data, and using the highway safety manual methodologies, and also propose countermeasure for improvements, and with that, estimate the benefit cost of those improvements. That will facilitate for us the implementation of the safety plan, identify locations that are high risk. That's the way that Federal Highway is moving now. Instead of just looking at fatalities and injuries, we'll be looking more than just that. We'll be looking at the characteristics of the roadways, the history of the crashes, and several factors. And then it will facilitate also for us to submit grant applications, because we'll have a direct tool that will provide the benefit cost analysis that is part of the grant application for safety through IDOT. Our hope is to create a tool that will not only benefit the Champaign County Highway Department, we'll start with that, but we would like, and that's why we're reaching out to IDOT, that the tool can be expanded to the whole state, that other counties can use it, and then the whole state can do risk-based system safety improvements. We are still in the discussion phase, but we are hoping to apply and get the funding.
Okay. Sounds as though you've got a lot of work in front of you.
Yes, because it's due January 17th.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
How can the community members who are people just in general participate more in the census collection? I hear a lot about the census data and 2020 because I'm in governmental spaces, but outside the community, you know, just an everyday person, I don't really hear much. And that's not really an RPC thing, just so that I make that clear. It's not just us, it's just in general, I don't hear it anywhere.
Well, we had last Friday community leaders training. We had about 30 people attending the training. We invited people who represent different areas in the community, churches. We had people from the Refugee Center. We had people from several areas attending that training, students. And that was the first step for us. We provided a training for them, 2 hours. They asked all the questions and all that, and they filled out a questionnaire that we put together discussing the different strategies that should be put in place to better reach out to the community. The purpose of the grant that the state released through DHS was exactly that we'll have an agency, which is the regional intermediary for the East Central Illinois region, that's the Champaign-Urbana Public Health District, and they have several sub-recipients that will be working with them to reach out to the different communities. In our particular case, our grant application was to reach out 0 to 5 population through Head Start, and we are working directly with Head Start. The homeless population, working with community services, homeless services, to reach out to the Latino population, because I work with the Latino population. And then also, my hope is through the grant application to hire interns who speak different languages, that we can reach out to the different members, different areas of the community where the language is not English. Then we have a huge network of people working on this, but because we haven't received the funding yet, we haven't been able to do it the way that we want it. We have been working with Representative Carol Ammons. She attended the last complete count committee. She is hoping to hurry up the process of getting the funding here, that we can reach out. But we have been doing a lot of reach out at this time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Let's have a motion to accept and place on file the division updates for fiscal, human resources, community services, and planning and community development.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Item 10 is the CEO Management Report for 2019 Annual Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. First item I want to share with you is at the last meeting we had, after that we had a study session on an initiative that we have been in discussions with the Park District, which is the Martin Center. And if those of you who are in attendance, there was a presentation by the Park District's Executive Director, and then we shared with you what our vision is to collaborate with the Park District to have 6 classrooms in the Martin Center that would serve our Head Start children. We've had a couple meetings now since then with the Park District and their architects, and there's a process of redesigning the building itself based on not only the needs of Head Start, but also the Boys and Girls Club, as well as the Park District. And so after that redesign, there will be some preliminary cost estimates that will be developed, which are different from the ones that we were operating on. And so we are awaiting to get those sometime in January, I believe. And my understanding is that there will be a contingency amount, because those dollar amounts will not be based on actual, the bidding that they'll have to do to get the building constructed. And so it is our intent to wait for those figures to be submitted to us once the architects have completed their work, and then we will review that and then bring that back to the commissioners, hopefully for either approval, or we'll discuss whether or not this will be something we're going to move forward with based on what the cost is going to be. The second item I wanted to report on is that we have been also in discussions with the City of Champaign as well as Unit 4 District. They have been, for the last few months, or last year or so, been working on developing a program that would serve young adults as well as their families. And these are young adults that have been identified through Unit 4. There's certain criteria that they have developed to identify these young individuals. The proposal on the table right now is for the Regional Planning Commission to be the lead agency that would administer this program. We still have probably a couple more meetings to have with the city. There's some things that still need to be worked out, and so once that has been finalized, we will probably be bringing something back to the commissioners. I know that their respective bodies haven't even approved that, and so but I just wanted to sort of give you a heads up that these are some of the discussions that have been at least taking place with the city and Unit 4. On the table today, we provided to you this 2019 report. This gives you a snapshot of how busy we have been here at the Regional Planning Commission. This sort of captures the work that's been done by all of our divisions, but it's not everything that we've done. These are just the highlights. And so I won't go through it, but at your leisure, you can kind of peruse through that and get an appreciation of how busy we have been here. I think I'm getting gray, as you can see. So that's the report. And then the last thing I wanted to do is to thank the Honorable Chuck Smith, Mayor of Rantoul, for being our chair this year. We've worked very well together, and I think this is his last meeting, and so I wanted to extend my appreciation to him for being there for the staff as well, particularly for myself. So thank you.
It's been a pleasure. All right, next item is in our old business. Is there any new business that we don't know about? All right. I'd like to have a motion to go into closed session, and whoever makes the motion to go into closed session needs to read the motion.
Before we conclude,
Yes.
Is there a schedule for next year's RPC meeting?
We did that last
Yes.
We did last meeting.
We had it, we posted it, or we talked about it last week, but I'm getting ready to post it online.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're good. Yes.
I
done.
move we go into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C1 to consider the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, or performance of specific employees of the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, very
We
good.
need to vote to go in.
Yes.
I'm just going to read the roll.
Yes,
Everybody.
please.